Yeah, I think there's two sort of categories that I think about that, and one is, how to effectively get more people involved, i.e. voting, which also means involved in terms of their education and understanding so they can vote intelligently. So that's a puzzle all by itself. And then how to remove the corruption from, sort of the other side in terms of campaign finance, all these, corporate control mechanisms that the debates are steered through. And to me, technology is a tool for both of those. I mean, there's some pretty simple things we could do if we really wanted broad participation democracy. We could go to a referendum at the state level as the town meeting. The town meeting is a gathering once a year. Each town votes on these 50 state level questions, and that's how the decisions are made. We could mandate that you can't get your state income taxes back until you vote. We could do what Oregon does, where every citizen, every household gets mailed a booklet that's about the size of a small phone book that has literally one page for every declared candidate, whatever party, independent, whatever. They get a full free page ad, a free full page ad in this booklet, and you just mail in your votes. At this point, it looks to me like we're not really, the system itself doesn't want broad participation, either because the corporate interests want to have more control, or because there's this, Hamilton-style fear that the masses of ignorant, uneducated people would make bad decisions. How do we make the masses of people capable of making good decisions? Are they able to make voting on issues-based, policy level? Do we need, to centralize all those decisions in Montpelier? What can we decentralize out of Montpelier to the town level? I mean, to me, things like social systems, welfare systems, education, development, those are not necessarily state roles. Those to me are town and county roles. So if all those issues were in those decisions in terms of how much tax money do we need to raise to do what level of service for all these categories, if those decisions were made at the local level in town meeting, then a huge part of the problem goes away.
Well, we disagree on some of those points. More democracy is an important part of my campaign for the Senate. I'm in favor of campaign finance reform, and I'm in favor of extending instant runoff voting statewide. In 2008, at the town meeting day, I was elected ward clerk in Ward 3 of Burlington. I just finished a 2-year term as ward clerk. In fact, I got more votes than Barack Obama did in that year, which I was proud of. But the one thing we all agree on, those of us who are running independently, I think, is that if Vermont becomes more independent, the people of Vermont will decide democratically what they really want, whether it's more of the Reagan-Bush agenda, or it's a more populist agenda such as Bernie Sanders would advocate. I worked on Bernie Sanders' campaign, and I see myself as a socialist in the same way that Bernie Sanders is. And I would like to see the state government guarantee health care to every Vermonter and a free education to every Vermonter. And it wouldn't be acceptable to me for some town meeting to decide, well, our people aren't going to have health care because we want to save money for the rich overlord that happens to dominate the town. Mm-hmm. But I think we all agree that we need democracy, and it's up to the people of Vermont to decide. Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, at this point we're discussing details of what a Vermont democracy would look like after independence, and that's I'm sure is going to be a very interesting, fascinating process when it actually happens. But I think we're just speculating at this point, and these are really, really good questions to talk with Vermonters about, I think, every day. And that's what I do as part of my Senate campaign, is I'm talking to people every day. It's a lot of fun, doesn't cost me anything, and I feel really good at the end of the day.
Well, I mean, one of the big questions is, why is voter turnout so low? And my answer is that most people recognize that the two-party system is a scam, and that there's obviously more than two perspectives on any particular topic or issue, and the fact that if you try to do a third party or independent, that you're going to split the vote and not be productive. I mean, the system itself forces this two-party game, which is the biggest part of the problem.
Yeah, it's like the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. You have if you're part of the two major parties, doesn't matter whether it's one major party or two, you have instant access to all of this infrastructure. If UVM or Middlebury College, etc., put on a debate, they invite all of the Democrats, who are not candidates, by the way, because their party has not selected a candidate. So these Democrats are not candidates, but they're invited as candidates, and they invite Doobie. Doobie doesn't show up. So now you've got 4 or 5 Democrats running for governor and all stepping over each other to agree with each other. And the independent candidate often shows up for that debate but is not allowed to speak. And now they've actually arrested one of the independent candidates, Dennis Steele, who's running for governor, for speaking at one of those debates. So much for free speech.
And it gets even worse, too. In 2008, they had debates, and all of the major parties you would think would be included. But I did a TV show at that time with Peter Diamondstone, and he was actually dragged away from the debate platform in Waitsfield.
I was there. I remember that. Yeah.
Because he was he was a major party candidate for governor of Vermont, but they wouldn't allow him to express his point of view. Right. I put that show on YouTube, on the internet, and it got more people looked at it than almost any other show I've done. It was people are interested, and I agree. Voting is a big issue. In Ward 3, in the last election, about 800 people voted out of something like 6,000 registered.
Right.
That's an absolutely terrible turnout. Now, we lost instant runoff voting in this last election, and instant runoff voting allows third, fourth party participation because nobody is a spoiler, since everyone's vote counts.
Right.
And the people in Ward 3, as a majority, support IRV. So if they had come out to vote, we would still have IRV.
Right.
But now the wealthy part of Burlington in the new North End has successfully deprived us of instant runoff voting, and who knows, in the next mayor's election we may have a right-wing mayor that will deprive us of other benefits here in Burlington.
You know, I think the other thing that I draw on a little experience, back to Belgrade, for example, during this transition period that they are still in, there were literally hundreds of political parties that sprouted up, and it became a coalition-building approach to get these groups to kind of agree on certain issues, and it's a mess. It was not functional either. So, you know, where I'm coming to is, it seems to me like the whole idea of a political party is actually a dinosaur. This thing is dead. Why do we need parties? There are no more than 10 to 20 issues that any candidate would run on and list and put their little spiel on each one. With technology today, in terms of the communication systems we have, it takes no time for you to read a candidate's 20 positions and make a decision based on their position on the issues. So why do we need these parties that somehow categorize people into, okay, if he's Democrat, he must support this, this, and this. If he's Republican, he must mean this, this, and this. When the truth is that half the time those assumptions are not legitimate. You assume that he's a Democrat, so he must support, you know, social progress and, you know, clean energy and all these things that half of them don't support. You assume that the Republican is fiscally conservative. Well, look what the fiscal conservative Republicans did in D.C. over the last 10 years. Explode our deficits. You know, what's fiscally conservative about that? So all those illusions are, I think, breaking down, and that's again why I think a lot of people aren't voting. And I think that the opportunity that we are trying to present is we are independent voices, and we're running on very clear issues where we're very clear on what we stand on all these topics. Take a read, make your decision. You know, why do you need to put us in a bucket of one party or another where our individual strengths and voices get squashed by the group?